What's going on, Sooner Nation? If you guys can't tell, I was at the softball games this weekend, got a little sunburned. I believe looks pretty radical with the glasses. But today we're here to talk about some recruiting news, things that might be happening in the transfer portal during the spring opening. We'll give you guys a little hint to what's going to happen there. Additionally, if you have not already, thank you for tuning into the PG Show, where we talk about all things Oklahoma athletics. What I want you guys to do is jump in the comments, join the discussion. And if you have not already, you need to hit that like and you need to hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. I would love for you guys to be a part of the community. You know what we're trying to do? We're trying to talk softball, basketball. We'll have Drew on to talk baseball as that season really starts to progress for the boys. We're going to have a lot of March Madness talk, and I want you guys to be a part of it. So, join the discussion, jump in the comments, and give me your guys' thoughts around the 25 class. Give me one prospect that Oklahoma has not landed yet that you want to see Oklahoma land in this 25 cycle. Now, Oklahoma got some good news on the football side of things for the recruiting piece, which is something kind of Oklahoma fans needed after a weekend where softball loses the 71-game win streak, which all good things must come to an end. Hey, and basketball, men's basketball, like they showed up and they gave Houston the game that probably they were not expecting. They lost 87-85, and you can kind of go back and forth on the refs, but we'll have a video on that you guys can check out. But we got to talk about Malik Hawkins, because Malik Hawkins announced his top 5 and that he wants to be committing sometime in early April. Now, the question is, does early April mean like the first couple of weeks? Does it mean like at the spring game or on like around the spring game? Like, what does that look like? And if the name Malik Hawkins sounds familiar to you, well, it should, because he's the younger brother of Michael Hawkins. And when you look at his top 5, this looks like a top 5 that a lot of people should have expected. But he's a 6'1.5", maybe 6'2", 180-pound cornerback out of Frisco Emerson High School in McKinney, Texas. You guys know the story, where the Hawkins were formerly, so we don't need to dive into that too much. But Malik Hawkins, and you look at this top 5, again, it seemed like a very predictable top 5 because all of these schools have been tight in the Hawkins family recruitment since Michael Hawkins last year. We'll dive into that here in a second. But you look at it, you got Texas State, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Mississippi State. And you look at Texas, they've been pushing hard, right? And again, it would be weird to see a recruit where the brother's going to one school, the brother goes to another school, and they're rival schools, right? It would seem off if that actually happened. You got Arkansas, where Arkansas was a prime candidate for Michael Hawkins services while Kendall Briles was there. So the Arkansas staff definitely has a good relationship with the Hawkins family, and you imagine probably has a good relationship with Malik. And then you look at Mississippi State. You might be asking, well, why is Mississippi State in there? Like, what relationship do they have? Jeff Lebby, right? Jeff Lebby recruited Hawkins to Oklahoma. Really good relationship there. He goes on to Mississippi State this past season. That's where the relationship sits. So he took 4 visits that are logged in On3's database to Oklahoma, 1 to Texas, 1 to SMU. You would imagine that if he commits to Oklahoma, he's probably not taking any other officials. If he commits to the other schools, officials could still be on the table. That's something that we're going to have to watch. But Malik Hawkins is somebody who 247, they don't have them ranked yet, but On3, 247 or On3 and Rivals have them both rated. Rivals has them as a 4-star. On3 is a 3-star. So you'd imagine Malik Hawkins probably going to get a 3 or a 4-star from 247 at some point. So interesting news for Oklahoma to watch there. Potentially a commit that could drop for them. Now, another prospect that Oklahoma fans are potentially watching, and you guys listened to the interview, you guys heard Luke Metz, the 3-star linebacker. I believe he's a 4-star on one of the websites, out of Mill Creek High School in Houston, Georgia. 6'3", 210 pounds. He's receiving a lot of people snooping around here. Got a total of 30 offers. Recently got another one. He's got an official visit set up with Oklahoma on June 14th. One with LSU on May 31st. He got an offer from Baylor on the 3rd of March. Luke Metz is a guy, when you heard it in that thing, it really sounds like Oklahoma could try to get this kid's commitment earlier if they can get him back on campus for an unofficial visit. Seems like Zach Alley, Brent Venables, and this linebacker staff sit in a really good spot with Luke Metz, which I heard you all when we made that other video. A lot of you guys said, hey, he's a kid from Georgia. We don't land a lot of kids from Georgia. True, but at some point it's got to change. And Luke Metz could be the point where you kind of see it change with Oklahoma football recruiting. So interesting prospect that Oklahoma could be potentially landing here this spring. I would just say it's on the table. Nothing set in stone, but it's on the table. Someone that Oklahoma fans might want to keep their eyes on. Now, I'm looking at some other prospects, right, that we could potentially see drop in the springtime, right? Could it be a Marcus Wimberly or an Amarian Robinson at safety? Could it be an Emmanuel Choice at wide receiver or a Cooper Perry? Because we know Cooper Perry's got an official visit set up. Could it be somebody on the defensive line like a Max Granville or Landon Rink or a Cole Breiler, who's been to Oklahoma at 6'3", 250 pounds? You've got Chase Lofton in the mix at tight end, although I think that one's probably one that you kind of hold out on after you see what happens with Nate Roberts, which, again, I told you guys, expect that one to go to Ohio State. You've got Deshaun Brame with crystal balls in there for Oregon, but Oklahoma is still in that race. Lincoln Cure, who probably is the tight end that you probably feel best about, but still has predictions in for Kansas State. With Chase Lofton, you're probably waiting to see what happens with some of your other tight end prospects. When it comes to springtime commitments, I don't think we see anything until probably the spring game or maybe a little bit after, but definitely in that June and July timeframe, you probably have 85 to 90% of this class already wrapped up. And I kind of went through and I did a class projection, which if you guys want a video on that, I can make one, but you guys jump down in the comments and let me know. I kind of went through and I played with the class calculator on 247, one of my favorite things to do. And I kind of walked through, okay, like, what are the most likely prospects for Oklahoma to land, whether I think it's the guys that they land or not, but just the names that you're hearing the most. And I looked at it to say Oklahoma could be anywhere between the 285 range to 289.46 with where the guys are currently ranked now. Now, take your guess at what that is. I had Oklahoma potentially getting 3 5-stars. They could potentially get a couple more than that. If Oklahoma gets 289.46 or somewhere in that 290 range, you're looking at potentially a top 3 class. If they get 3 or 4 5-stars, maybe you're looking at a number 1 class. It's going to be a smaller class for Oklahoma, but it maybe is a smaller class for some of these other top schools as well. So Clemson's recruiting are up there back at a high level. They're number 2 in the recruiting rankings. Notre Dame's, of course, number 1, but does Notre Dame kind of fall off with some of those commits later on? Already sitting at a 242.57 composite score. That's the big question. Now, for Oklahoma, obviously we know what they want to address in 2025. It's going to be offensive line. You're going to want to go in there and grab some more tight ends. But what do you want to address through the transfer portal in this spring opening, right? And defensive line. That's got to be the number 1 position of need. And if you guys remember, there were some rumblings of, and I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'm not going to tell you where he's from because I haven't dug too much into it. I just kind of heard rumblings, right? There is a defensive lineman that Oklahoma was in the winter or the first portal cycle in December that if he was to hit the portal, you were here in Oklahoma. That's potentially now back on the table. So if that happens, you probably got a good foothold on your defensive line opening. And although you're going to really miss Jacob Lacey, this guy could come in and kind of help fill that hole. Additionally, I'm hearing Landon Hatchett, it was just more so of a timing thing, right? Maybe down the road that is revisited. I'm not sure if it's going to be a springtime deal or if that would be sometime in the summer or maybe even a next season thing. That's something Oklahoma fans have to watch. But definitely when you look at the transfer portal, defensive line has to be the position. You almost have to wonder, Does Oklahoma take one or two defensive linemen? And if you take one or two defensive linemen, who are you pushing out? Because you're already over your scholarship limit. You imagine there's going to be some turnover. Do you lose a linebacker? Do you lose a wide receiver or two, right? I think those are some areas where you look at and say, if you can afford to lose anybody, those are two positions to lose somebody at. Although you don't want to lose any of your linebackers. And I mean, you have a couple wide receivers where if they were processed out, it probably wouldn't hurt you that much, especially with how deep that room is. But it's a possibility, and it's something that we have to talk about. So something interesting for Oklahoma fans to keep their eyes on. Obviously, as the spring portal hits up, you're going to see more grad transfers hit. You're going to see more guys hit that maybe they transferred the first time, but it wasn't just a great fit for them, or maybe they got on campus and their coach ended up leaving and going somewhere else, but they gave that school a shot throughout the spring. And so now they're hitting that spring portal to kind of go somewhere else. That's always a possibility. So couple things that you want to look out for if you're an Oklahoma fan, and obviously that will change, and we'll have more updates as those change. But that's kind of all I got for you guys today. If you have not already, make sure you hit that like, you hit that subscribe button, jump in the comments below, and give me that one prospect that you guys want to see Oklahoma land here in the 2025 cycle.